Right then guys, welcome to Task A for Unit 2 Leadership. Looking at the title for Task A then, you need to describe different leadership styles used in public services and identify the role of a team leader in public services. So you've got two parts to this task, which must be in the form of a report. Okay, so let's look at part 1. You need to describe the following leadership styles. Okay, and you've got your different leadership styles here. So then, for each of these leadership styles, what you must include for each bullet point is these 4 points here. So you must cover these 4 bullet points for each leadership style above. Okay, so for the first one, authoritarian, you must describe what that leadership style is, give an example or situation to which leadership style would be used, and explain why that style is appropriate for that situation. Okay, so let's say for example task orientated, I will explain what that was. I'll then go on to give an example, such as in the fire service, if we were turn up to a house fire. Okay, I would be a task orientated leader because I would have a specific task, i.e. the emergency situation of rescuing someone from a fire. Okay, I'll have a specific task style of leadership because I want to get that task done as quickly as possible because it is an emergency. So I'd adopt this leadership style, and this would be appropriate to that situation. Okay, information on this in terms of examples and appropriate style for a situation you will cover during your lessons. So it's important that you keep your notes. The third bullet point then, you need to identify similarities and differences to other leadership styles, and important this bit here, knowing any impacts that these styles may have on the roles they perform. Okay, so then for each leadership style here, you must compare and contrast. So compare is what's similar to other ones, and contrast is how is it different from other ones. So people orientated, for this one you may want to say how this is similar to another one. For example, people orientated is similar to task orientated because it focuses on one thing. However, people orientated is different to laissez-faire because you adopt a laid-back approach for laissez-faire. Okay, it's as simple as that. All you need to do for each one is compare it to one other leadership style and see how it's similar, and also contrast it to one other leadership style and see how it's different, and you do that for each one. Okay, the last thing you need to do is for each leadership style you need to select a sector from public service, so it'll be any public service of your choice such as police, fire, army, and say particularly why is it successful and evaluate and why. So for when you're going through each one, you need to find a public service that particular leadership style is successful and state why. Again, you will have notes on this from your lessons, so you should retain these to use for your report. Okay, so then just to cover one last point here, this point here, you're not just stating why it's important, okay, and why it's successful and effective. The important bit is this bit here, guys, evaluate. Okay, why is it advantageous to use that leadership style? What's the disadvantages? What's the impact? So you will get tips on how to evaluate, and you will do a session on this. So again, it's important that you keep these notes so that you do evaluate to achieve the higher grade in this report. So then moving on to part 2 then, identify the role of a team leader. This is quite a simple part of the task. Okay, so then you've got team leader roles which have been identified here below. You must cover all these team leader roles, and what you must do for each bullet point is describe each role above and explain why it is important in the public services with examples. So first one, explain what position is, okay, why it's important in public services, and give examples. Commanding officer, explain what it is, why it's important in public services with examples, and you do the same for each one. Once you've done that, then you've successfully completed this task. This part of your task criteria box, it's important that you do read and check that you have covered and included all this in your report to achieve the highest grade. So the first one then, describe different leadership styles listed above and particular reference to those used in public services. You should know in which public services each situation may be used. Okay, so looking back up to here, you must have covered all these and explained each one, and then the part here where it says appropriate style for situation, you must be able to demonstrate to me that you understand what that leadership style is and when it will be most best and most suitable to use in the public services in a situation. That's what you need to get across in part 1 to achieve A1 criteria. Identify the role of a team leader then, which is this bit here. It's quite straightforward. You need to explain each one of the points that I've covered before. For the different leadership styles, it's important that you do compare each one to another one, picking just one, and identify how it's similar, and contrast it to another leadership style, again just picking one for each one, how it's different. Okay, this part here is very important. You must note at each point when you compare and contrast any impacts that these may have on the roles they perform. Okay, so how does it affect them? And then evaluate, which is from this section here. For each leadership style, select a sector from services, police, fire, army, anyone you're interested in, and state why successful, evaluate and why. Okay, so when you're evaluating, okay, you must evaluate the effectiveness of each leadership style used in any sector that you choose and explain, draw conclusions about why this is the case. So if you said it's in particular very successful in the police or the fire service or whichever service you pick for each leadership style, and you can do different public services for each leadership style, okay, but you must explain and evaluate why it is successful. Okay, again, when you're doing your reports, guys, please include your name, the title of the unit, the task, the date, the title of the actual report. You've got to include an introduction, okay, and a conclusion, and especially for your evaluating, you must include any references, any books, any web pages you've used, and clearly structure your reports. Now, it is important that you do spell check your work as well, because you will be receiving feedback on your spelling, grammar and punctuation.